Is Ferrari building a championship team? Or is it letting an internal war destroy its season from within? Because what Vasseur has just revealed is not a simple statement. It is a bomb. He has decided to let Hamilton and Leclerc fight freely on the track, even when they are losing time against their direct rivals. Yes, you heard it right. Ferrari is allowing an uncontrolled internal battle at the worst possible moment. And this is where everything becomes shocking. Because this decision not only changes the dynamics of the team, it can define who will be the true leader of Ferrari, or even completely break the internal structure. What is happening between Hamilton and Leclerc is not a simple rivalry. It is the beginning of something much bigger and potentially dangerous for Ferrari. Ferrari has entered a new era, but not as many expected. Because while everyone looked at the signing of Lewis Hamilton as the beginning of a dominant project, what is really happening within the team is much more complex and much more dangerous. Frédéric Vasseur has made a decision that completely breaks with Ferrari's historical DNA. There is no number one driver, there are no team orders, there is no direct control when tension rises on the track. And this is not a theory, we already saw it in action. In the middle of the race, with Mercedes setting the pace at the front, Hamilton and Leclerc began to fight each other. A real, intense, unrestricted battle. While time slipped away lap after lap, the logical thing at that moment would have been to intervene, freeze positions, secure points, but Vasseur decided otherwise. He decided to trust. Total confidence in two drivers who are not only competitive, but who are at a completely different point in their careers. On the one hand, you have Hamilton, a 7-time world champion who has arrived at Ferrari with a clear mission to show that he can still lead a winning project. And the most shocking thing is that his adaptation is being much faster than expected, even getting dangerously close to Leclerc's pace in qualifying and showing glimpses where he is already superior. On the other side is Leclerc, the driver that Ferrari has built as its absolute reference for years, the one who knows the team, the car, and the system, but who now for the first time feels a real threat at home. And this is where the real problem begins. Because this is not just a sporting battle, it is a fight for control of the team. Every overtake, every fastest lap, every decision on the track has a much greater weight than it seems. And the most delicate thing of all is the context in which it occurs. Ferrari has a competitive car and race pace, but it is failing where it matters most, qualifying. This forces them to go further back, to take risks, to fight more on the court, and therefore to expose themselves even more to this type of internal confrontations. That is to say, they are not only allowing the fight, they are creating the perfect scenario for that fight to explode. And meanwhile, their rivals advance. Mercedes capitalizes on every mistake, optimizes every opportunity, and Ferrari wastes time fighting against itself. What Vasseur has done is not simply giving freedom, it has lit a spark within Ferrari. And the big question is no longer whether Hamilton and Leclerc are going to fight. The real question is, how far will this fight go before it is too late? What Vasseur has caused within Ferrari is now beginning to show its real consequences. Because allowing Hamilton and Leclerc to fight freely sounds good in theory, it sounds competitive, it sounds fair, it even sounds spectacular for the fans. But in practice, it is generating a much deeper effect, and much more dangerous. Ferrari is becoming a team divided into two fronts. On the one hand, Hamilton is growing within the team at a speed that no one expected. Not only has he adapted to the car, but he is already understanding how to extract performance at key moments, even equaling or surpassing Leclerc in certain phases of the weekend. And that completely changes the internal balance. Because Leclerc no longer competes against another teammate, compete against a legend who has arrived with hunger, with experience, and with the ability to change hierarchies in a very short time. And this is where Vasseur's decision begins to be questioned. Because while they fight, Ferrari loses efficiency. Not in pure rhythm, not in potential, but in execution. The SF26 or the current car in this process has speed in the race, it has tools to fight, but it is not maximizing its results. Because they arrive at the races poorly positioned, because they fail in qualifying, and because when they have the opportunity to recover, their own drivers take time away from each other. This creates a chain of problems. They lose valuable seconds. They wear out more tires. They are exposed to errors. And the most serious thing, they let points slip that could decide a championship. And meanwhile, Mercedes doesn't hesitate. They don't have that internal conflict. They execute, they advance, they capitalize. Ferrari, on the other hand, is in a situation where its greatest strength, having two elite drivers, is becoming its greatest weakness. But there is something even more delicate. the psychological part. Because when there is no clear leader, when there is no defined hierarchy, each driver begins to race not only against his rivals, but against his own teammate. And that changes everything. Decisions on the track are no longer collective. Strategies are tense. Internal trust begins to fracture little by little. And although Vasseur defends that this freedom is positive, that it is fair, that it is good for the team, the reality is that you are walking an extremely fine line. Because if this rivalry escalates, if at any time there is a touch, a mistake, a big loss of points, Ferrari would not only lose a race, you could lose complete control of the equipment. And that's where it all gets really shocking. Because this story is no longer just about performance. It's about management, leadership, and a decision that can define the entire season. And this is where everything comes to a breaking point, because what began as a brave decision by Vasseur, it may end up becoming Ferrari's biggest strategic mistake in years. The situation is no longer sustainable in the long term. When you have two drivers like Hamilton and Leclerc fighting without restrictions, in a context where the car is not dominant, where every point counts, and where the rivals do not forgive, it's not a question of if something is going to happen. It's a matter of when. And Ferrari is getting closer to that critical moment. Because there is something that is already beginning to be evident. This fight has no defined limits. There is no red line. There is no up to here. And that means that the risk grows with each race. A touch, a bad decision, a compromised strategy, and everything can explode. And if that happens, the consequences would be devastating. First, in sports, Ferrari would not only lose key points, could directly give an advantage to his rivals in the fight for the championship. Something that is already happening little by little while Hamilton and Leclerc take time away from each other on the track. But the most serious thing would not be that. The truly dangerous thing would be the internal rupture. Because the moment one of the two feels harmed, the moment a team decision does not clearly favor one, trust is broken. And when that happens at Ferrari, history has already taught us how it ends. Internal tensions, questioned decisions, media pressure, and a team that is beginning to fall apart from within. Vasseur knows it. He knows he is betting on something extremely risky. A philosophy that depends completely on the emotional control of two drivers who are fighting for the same thing, to be the leader of Ferrari. But he also knows something else. If you can get this to work, if you can get both of you to push as hard as possible without crossing the line, Ferrari could have the strongest duo on the entire grid, capable of destroying any rival. That's the impossible balance you're trying to maintain. The problem is that in Formula One, that type of balance is rarely maintained. And right now, Ferrari is not playing it safe. He is playing with fire. But there is a scenario that almost no one is seeing. And that may be the most determining of all. Because until now we have talked about the fight, the risk, the possible conflict. But we haven't talked about what Vasseur is really building with this decision. And it is something much more ambitious than it seems. Vasseur is not only allowing Hamilton and Leclerc to compete, it is causing a forced evolution within the team. He's pushing both drivers to the limit, constantly, with no safety net. And that has a very clear objective. Turning Ferrari into a team where the internal level is so high that any weakness disappears due to pure competitive pressure. Because when you have two drivers fighting at the highest level, every detail matters more. Every lap counts, every mistake is punished immediately, and each improvement accelerates. This explains why, despite the problems in qualifying, Ferrari remains convinced that its real pace is competitive, even enough to stand up to the best in the race. But here is the other side of the coin. This type of approach is unforgiving. There is no room for structural errors. There is no time for long processes. There is no room for repeated failures like those Ferrari has shown in qualifying. Because when the internal environment is so demanding, or you evolve quickly, or you collapse, and that includes the team itself. Engineers, strategists, mechanics, everyone is under the same pressure as the pilots. Every decision they make now is being exposed by that fight on the court. If they fail, it is more noticeable. If they get it right, it becomes decisive. And this is where everything connects. The battle between Hamilton and Leclerc is not just a rivalry. It is a catalyst, a performance accelerator, but also errors. That's why what Vasseur is doing is so shocking. Because he is not trying to avoid chaos. He's trying to use it to his advantage. He is betting that from this tension a Ferrari will emerge stronger, more precise, more prepared to win. But the problem is obvious. These types of experiments in Formula One have no middle ground. Or you become the strongest team on the grid, or everything breaks from within. And Ferrari, right now, is exactly at that point. And in the end, it all comes down to one thing. Ferrari has made a decision that can completely define its destiny. Because what Vasseur has proposed is not just a way of managing pilots. It is a total commitment to a risky philosophy, where talent, freedom, and internal competition are above absolute control. He has decided to trust Hamilton, has decided to trust Leclerc, but above all, he has decided not to intervene. And that, in Formula One, is never neutral, can take you to the top, or it can destroy you from within. Because yes, Ferrari has the potential. It has the car at race pace. It has two drivers capable of fighting for everything. But he also has a crack that grows race after race. A rivalry without clear limits. A fight for leadership. And a context where each mistake is paid too dearly. And meanwhile, time is ticking. Rivals do not wait. The points escape. And each decision weighs more than the previous one. The big question is no longer whether Hamilton and Leclerc can coexist competing. The real question is, will Vasseur be able to control this situation before it gets out of hand? Or are we seeing firsthand the beginning of a conflict that could mark an era at Ferrari? Because if something has been clear, is that this story? It has only just begun. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.